If you're a horror fan, you know the thrill of a good scare. The adrenaline rush, the goosebumps, the way your heart races, it's all part of the experience. But what if I told you that some stories are more than just tales? Some stories are real, and they are far more terrifying than any movie you could watch. You need to hear this. This is not just any story. It's a legend that has haunted a village for generations. A tale so chilling, it will make you question the very nature of reality. There's a story from a village you won't believe. A place where the line between the living and the dead is blurred and the past refuses to stay buried. It's about a place called the Cursed Forest. A forest so dense and dark that even the bravest souls hesitate to enter. They say it's a place where the spirits of the damned roam freely, seeking vengeance on the living. In a small village called Thaipur, nestled in the heart of India, the villagers live in constant fear of the Shraapit Jungle. This forest, known for its eerie silence and unsettling atmosphere, has been the subject of countless stories and superstitions. There was a nearby forest known as the Shraapit Jungle. The name itself sends shivers down the spine of anyone who hears it. Shraapit, meaning cursed, is a fitting description for this haunted place. They say at night you could hear the screams of a woman, echoing through the trees. The sound is so chilling that it can freeze the blood in your veins. Some say it's the spirit of a woman who met a tragic end in the forest, her soul unable to find peace. Whispering in your ear, her voice is said to be so soft yet so terrifying that it can drive a person mad. Those who have heard it describe it as a mix of sorrow and rage, a voice that haunts their dreams. Imagine walking through the forest at night, the only sound being the crunch of leaves under your feet, and then suddenly you hear it, a whisper so close, it feels like someone is right behind you. One night, a hunter named Vikram ventured into this dark forest. Vikram was known for his bravery and skill, but even he was not prepared for what awaited him in the Shraapit Jungle. The villagers warned him, but he shrugged it off, thinking it was all just superstition. They told him stories of people who had gone into the forest and never returned, but Vikram was determined to prove them wrong, saying, "Fear is for the weak." He laughed off their concerns. He believed that courage and a good weapon were all he needed to face whatever was in the forest. Armed and determined, he stepped into the eerie darkness. The forest seemed to swallow him whole, the dense canopy blocking out the moonlight, leaving him in almost complete darkness. All he could hear was the rustling of leaves. The sound seemed to come from all directions, making it impossible to tell where it was coming from. It was as if the forest itself was alive, watching his every move. Suddenly he saw a white figure floating in the air. His heart raced as he tried to make sense of what he was seeing. Was it a ghost? A trick of the light? He couldn't be sure. He shone his torch on it and saw an old woman in a tattered sari, her face charred. Her eyes were hollow, and her expression was one of eternal suffering. It was a sight that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Turning her large, haunting eyes towards Vikram, she seemed to look right through him, as if she could see into his very soul. Her gaze was so intense that it felt like a physical weight pressing down on him. She whispered, her voice barely audible but filled with a chilling intensity. It was a voice that seemed to come from another world, a world of pain and suffering. Vikram could feel his courage slipping away, replaced by a growing sense of dread. He knew he had to get out of there, but his legs felt like they were made of lead. Panic-stricken, Vikram reached for his gun, hoping to defend himself against whatever this apparition was, but his hands were shaking so badly that he could barely hold on to it, but it slipped from his trembling hands. The gun fell to the ground with a thud, and Vikram knew he was defenseless. He could only watch in horror as the figure moved closer. The next morning, villagers found only a single shoe at the forest edge. It was Vikram's shoe, and it was the only trace of him that remained. The villagers knew what it meant. Vikram had become another victim of the Shraapit Jungle, and a blood-stained piece of paper at the forest edge. The paper had a message scrawled on it in what looked like Vikram's handwriting, but the words were almost illegible, smeared with blood. It read, "Beware the Shraapit Jungle, the spirits are real." The message was clear, and it sent a wave of fear through the village. No one wanted to end up like Vikram. After that night, no one dared to go near the forest again. The villagers would tell the story of Vikram to anyone who would listen, as a warning to stay away from the cursed forest. If you enjoyed this story, remember that sometimes the scariest tales are the ones that are true. The Shraapit Jungle is a reminder that some places are best left undisturbed. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Your support helps us bring you more stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat.